Welcome back. Welcome back. And today's podcast, I'm joined with my wonderful co host, David Soden, to talk about an exciting book that he put together. And David, as I understand, it's called Finally AI for Everyone, a very democratic title for a book. I'd love to start first and foremost, tell me about it. Tell me about the inspiration for it and what you're trying to get out of it.
Yep. So really what I'm trying to get out of it is mainly going to, I guess let me go backwards. So the inspiration honestly was some of our podcasts that we've had here. And, a lot of the things that we've talked about to some extent will involve AI, but yet people may not know enough about it or know where to start. I get that question quite a bit. It's like, where do I even start? Where do I begin? And so that's really the inspiration for the book, to have somebody come in grassroots, really not know much of anything, but they want to explore. This is the most important thing. Explore AI in a private, intimate way where you don't have to worry about your stuff or information getting stolen. And so there's an open source project out there called LM Studio. Some of you may or may not know about it. And it just allows you to download this application on your desktop, and then you can load in what's called models that'll allow you to do different things. I'll do a couple of demos for us today, so I'll bring a little more context into it. Let me bring up the screen so at least people can get a look here. So first and foremost, you can get a free copy of this book. I'm only charging $10 for the printed version. So if you guys want a print version, unfortunately, I can't send that through the computer to you. So it is available on Amazon at a very reasonable price of $10. It's almost 200 pages in length, packed with information. We'll cover some of it today. But all of you can get this book for free. I've got it on my GitHub. And so if you scan this QR code, let me pull this thing off the screen so that it doesn't interfere potentially with your camera. But if you guys scan this QR code, you can get a free digital copy, which is the PDF that you saw me showing on the screen. And then you can download this and read it for yourself. And again, if you want a print copy and you want to support my work, I'd love you. That's awesome. Go ahead and do that. It's on Amazon, so you can do that as well. So let me get rid of the banner here. Let's bring up the book so we can kind of get into a little bit about this. And then also show you LM Studio. So this is what it looks like when it's installed. And so a couple of things to go, there's quite a large table of contents of stuff in here. And then there's some information about iconography and stuff. So there's, make sure to read that so that when you stand or when you go and read it, you see those, you'll know what they mean. The other thing is, here's a couple of things that you and I have talked about in the past, Sean, about, general high level. So this is just common questions and concerns. So a lot of good summary information there. Here, talk about what to expect to learn and all of that other stuff. So I'm going to jump around a little bit. I want to go into some of these, like this area. So this is an area specifically designed for you to scan with your computer this QR code. If you download and get the free copy that I had sent to you, when you're in your PDF viewer, there's hyperlinks that are enabled into here. So if you click this, it should take you to a download screen so that you can download it on your computer. And if you download that on your computer, then you can follow along with the steps that has been illustrated inside of the book there. And so this is the system requirements. So you'll have all of that information. And then there's certain portions like this right here, LM Studio, exploring the user interface. Not only do I cover it in detail in the book for you, but I've also given you another hyperlink here that will take you out to the internet, and then you can play these videos that are linked into the book. So now the book becomes very interactive, because some people are visual learners. Some people need they don't care about visualization. They simply just want to read it and move on and go. But you should be able to crank these up and get this to play. I'm not sure if it's going to play because I'm on I'm already using all of my resources for this. So in any event, just click the play button and that should be good enough to get going right there. Let me get rid of that. And then so we're going to move towards the end of the book, or actually, let me pivot right here. Here's a couple of warm-up exercises. So we get some practical exercises here. One's for creative writing. We got, sorry, I went too fast. This is summarization. We got conversational agents, text transformations, poetry generations, and all this other stuff. For those of you that may be very, very technical, there is a great section for you guys here to do some pretty heavy-duty stuff. Let's see where it is. Trying to make sure I get into this area. So this is these are advanced video concepts. So we're talking about text generation from video. I'm sorry, from audio. And so then this area right here is the developer section. And this allows you to turn LM Studio into a server so that you can write code or computer code against it to receive information back that you can use maybe in an application. There's a whole bunch of additional code snippets in here. I also have a library for you. I'm sorry about jumping around again here. I wanted to find out. I don't remember what page it's on here. Might be over here. Yep. Okay, so this is the scan for this one. This is a link out to Postman. And so if you're not familiar with Postman, Postman is a way for you to use a large language model on your computer or on an API, and allows you to test API calls before you write it into your applications and code. And because LM Studio is hosted on your local machine, I give you a bunch of actual API calls that you can do to get information back. And so this is all templated. So all you got to do is go to Postman, create an account. You can download this template, and then when you have LM Studio installed, plus you follow the steps that's in the book, you can start getting these large language models to start working programmatically for you. So a whole bunch of really interesting stuff. Now, when we get towards the second half of the book, which is going to be around here. Yeah, sorry, let me go back. I just caught something that probably would be interesting for you. So there's this chatting with Documents RAG. I'm going to give you a demo on that and what that does, but it allows you to upload PDFs or upload text into the system, and then you can start chatting with your documentation. So between chatting with your documentation using different types of prompts, and that's really what I wanted to show you next. There's a whole area towards the end of this book about mastering prompt engineering. Matter of fact, the rest of this book is really all about all of the different use cases, understanding how generative AI works, how it thinks, giving you examples, showing you how to break down the prompt to create it very effectively. Sean and I have done several shows previously where you can do a lot of this really cool stuff. But the point is, every type of prompt that you probably will encounter in, your career should be covered here to some extent. Not the actual prompt itself. Like, you're not going to be able to copy and paste, but the techniques that you're going to need to master and use. And it's really helpful. And again, the whole thing's entirely 100% free for you. So you can download, use the resource. And again, if you want to go ahead and use the link to the Amazon, you can always put it on your bookshelf as well. So before we jump into a demo, Sean, do you have any specific questions about what I can answer for you? I went really sure. Give a fast overview and not go too deep in any one area, because 200 pages is a whole lot to cover, especially in a
Exactly. Well, I mean, again, first and foremost, I know that we have had this conversation multiple times on this podcast, then off this podcast, is Gen AI is a tool that is designed for the masses. A lot of this I saw in the book. There's a lot of developer-oriented things, but I also believe that there are other people than developers who can take advantage of this. Do you foresee other different audiences besides developers using this to get started?
Yeah, and that was really kind of the whole entire premise for this as well, is because even if you don't want to download and play, and you simply have an AI system or tool in place, you can use the second half of the book to go over all of the prompt engineering techniques. So this is really meant for a beginner to an end. Some of the things that I talk about, especially after the installation here, when we start getting into some of this just general walk around user interface, I have kind of the video that walks them through. But when we start picking up around, where might it be? It really starts off into the, let's look at one of the first examples that I had in here, because that really kind of takes everything through a very simple use case. So here's like exercise 1. So if you are just starting, this is a great example for meeting everybody where they are. So if you're super advanced, this is going to be boring. If you're intermediate, it might be a little entertaining or a little boring. If you're a beginner, this is a perfect place to start. And so it's just telling you, open up LLM Studio and load up a pre-trained creative model. And so there is one that comes out of the box with it. So for example, to load up a model, let's see, I've got one in here already. I'll show you the one that comes along for the ride out of the box. It's this 1,000,000,001 llama. So this means just load it up, and you can see that it's crawling in here and loading up. Now, the performance on the machine is going to vary, and I talk about this in the book. People are going to have different horsepower machines, and I've got an insanely fast machine. So what you're seeing here, to be fair to everybody watching or viewing this, my performance is going to be probably much, much faster than the average person's computer. So take that with a grain of salt there. But these lower density models for an average PC will load up just fine and allow you to do pretty much just about all of the exercises that we've seen here. So the next thing is, it says, let me see if I can go ahead and, because I'm in PDF here, I'm going to try to grab my selection tool. It says in the prompt, type in this text. And so what this is trying to do is talking about creative writing, but this is also going to show you how to use a prompt type of completion. So you're not giving the LLM a whole lot of information. You're kind of just implying that you want it to do a completion. Once upon a time in a small village, there lived and then, if you feed this in, the large language model, as you know, Sean, wants to help as much as possible. So as soon as I hit this, it's going to finish it out, and then it's going to go wrong, and it's going to complete your story for you. And so you saw how fast that was. Again, my computer is insanely fast. Yours may not take that long. I mean, I would say 8 seconds probably on the worst side. And the average person to write all of that text that you saw here, expect a delay while it writes it out of about maybe 3 seconds. I'd say that would be on par. I think mine was maybe about a second or just under a second. But in any event, that's all you need to do to provide that. I talk about the temperature. And if you had read up to this point in the book, you would already know to go in here. And this is where you can adjust certain settings. That's over here. There's this button over here on the side that allows you to adjust your temperature. Again, all of this is covered in the book of where all the controls are. And again, I cover these in videos to make sure that everybody's comfortable with the interface. So all beginners, even people that are seasoned that have not used LM Studio, this is an extremely powerful desktop application. So if you're on Linux, if you're on Apple, if you're on Windows, it's the same UI or across all platforms. So just make sure you use the thumb through the book to become familiar with the user interfaces, because there are a lot of switches to play with. But you saw I got a lot of mileage out of that simple exercise without flipping any switches, and it was able to do a remarkable completion. And so you've got exercise 2 and 3 that shows you those different areas. So I think anybody beginning, if they start there, they'll start to get their feet wet. And then when they get a little bit of amazed, it's like an addiction. You just try to say, hey, what else can this thing do? So get ready to embark more on a journey of endless exploration.
Yeah. I mean, what I tell people about generative AI is that, do you remember the early days of the internet, right? And
Dial-up.
you would find out, hey, I can look up an encyclopedia on the internet. Oh, that's really cool. Or, hey, eventually I can buy the book I want, that I've been looking for. I can buy it online. And then people started getting into things like, wait a second, I can search for a product and service that I always wanted and find it. This is the next evolution of the internet. And the tools that it provides are currently very, very much not taught. Like if you go to gemini.google.com, they don't really tell you all the different things that you can do. And so there is a gap of knowledge for the majority of people between the haves and the have-nots. One of the most common things that I do with this technology is I will go through and take a file, what's the internet slang for it? Article too long, TLDR. Exactly. I could take a file and say, just summarize this for me. I can go to a website and say, summarize all the products and services they offer. It is a lot more powerful search capability than ever before, but it really doesn't teach you. And that's what I really like about your book, David, is that it opens and cracks that door open and shows you some very perfunctory techniques. It gives you, I think, a very detailed guide on how to get it up locally. Now, you could certainly use the Gemini Google if you don't really care about your data. As an example, one of the things that I do, and I have problems for, and I think I've talked about this before, is being able to do personalized search. I could provide it my age, my demographic, what I'm interested in, and then ask it questions like, hey, here is my profile of my wife. What should I buy for Christmas for her? Right? Here's my eldest son, my youngest son. This is what they're interested in. Can you recommend things for me? And then you're not stuck into the Amazon world. You're in the complete realm of opportunities. I mean, it scans Kickstarter, for crying out loud, so you can get something really edgy for your loved one for Christmas. So what I really like about what you're doing here is really trying to unlock this new internet skill that a lot of people are very unaware of and need to be.
I'm going to use your example, Sean. On the screen, you can create something called a system prompt. A system prompt is going to give you a personified template for the AI. Imagine if you had a piece of clay and you were creating a sentient being. And that's exactly what this advanced section over here allows you to do. And you're going to use your example to cheat there. So you can say, my wife is, and you can fill in all of the information that you want to fill out about your wife, about maybe how old she is, what she likes, what she doesn't like, whatever you want to add to the profile to describe your every aspect of your wife as much as possible.
What's the last 10 gifts you gave her?
Yeah, all of it. Whatever, as much, the more you put in, the better, because this becomes the foundation for what the AI is going to deal with. So then you can save your preset and just call it my wife, ... You can hit save. And so now every time you load up a model and you want to have a conversation with the AI, because if you choose the persona or the preset, it's called here, as your wife, now you can just have a conversation around it, and the system is always going to give you answers in scope to everything and anything about your wife. And, if you ask it, hey, do I have permission to drink, a case of beer and watch the football on Sunday or whatever it might be, don't be surprised if it comes back and starts telling you no. You've got honeydews that you need to get done, and that's not going to be allowed to be there. So,
and again, as a husband who gets told that I'm extremely thoughtful in my gifts, you don't have to tell people why you're such a good gift giver. So, this is the new internet language that you need to be aware of, because not only is it going to help you in a personal way, as I was stating, but as a professional way as well. I know I get pulled into conversations. We have global clients who touch every vertical in the world of business. And I am not that well educated on these marketplaces. But what I can do is, before I get on calls with our clients, I can go through and say, I'm meeting so-and-so from so-and-so about so-and-so, and then be able to get a good understanding of what should be or could be in their mind. And then this gives me the 80% of prep, so that when I'm having a conversation with a client, they understand that I'm in their mind space.
Yep.
I'm talking to them at their place of business, not the other way around. And you'll be shocked how much difference that makes in creating the personal and business relationships that make you a success. So again, I cannot emphasize enough, if you have not started this train, I heavily recommend reading David's either digital or physical version, because it will help you get up on a skill that pretty soon everybody's going to know how to do this, and they're going to be teaching it in elementary schools in 5 years. Not high schools, elementary schools.
Yeah, this is true. And I want to show an example of what you just saw, or what you just mentioned, because I think this is going to be interesting and helpful. So I'm asking the AI which is really interesting too, because if you think about the use case scenario, like you might want to mock play, role play, whatever it is. In this example, I'm going to play off of what Sean said, but I need to get the context, and I don't want to go into my emails, especially here, and copy and paste content from there. But I'm going to use some synthetic data. I'm going to ask the AI to make me an email from a customer with a complaint. And so here's the complaint. Let's see. I don't like the placeholders. Oh, that's some spelling in there too. All right. So I finally got a decent output that I needed. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this message off. I'm going to start a brand new conversation. So what I'm going to do is, and this is the technique that you should use. So based on what Sean just said, as you might be prepping for a meeting. So I'm going to be very selfish in this example. I want to turn this customer complaint around, and I want to try to sell them my book, but I don't know how to do that. So what I want to do is I'm going to ask the AI, and it could come up with a really great idea. And a lot of times, think of whatever you get in these responses as I always go back to this 80-20 rule, or the Pareto principle. And it is basically that 80% of the stuff that comes out of here is solid. 20% of it just is garbage. And as long as you're okay with that, it's not going to do your work for you, but it's going to do most of the work for you, the heavy lift. And so here I want to say, I want to respond to this email to help on the issue, and can't type. So let's add some proper punctuation here. At least And believe it or not, AI doesn't really need it. So you can kind of almost throw in hieroglyphics at least to a point. All right. And so here's the information. And what I did to give you some context into quotes. So I'm basically giving up the setup to AI. And then what I'm doing is in the quotes, I'm framing in some context. And I'm putting it in quotes so that it doesn't get confused with what I'm asking to the question. And what I'm hoping for is some reply from the AI that's helpful, that allows me to address the information or address the complaint. So let's go look and first read the email, because honestly, I don't even know what the email said. I went so fast, I didn't even read it myself. So this is an unhappy customer email about this order. There's an incorrect description, and he's, I assume it's a he, yeah, James. Let's see here, writing to express disappointment with the order, blah, 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 very specific, some New Balance running shoes. So he didn't receive any response, and he wants a refund for his purchase. Okay, so that's like quickly summarizing it. Now, I could have also, in a separate conversation, and I'll do that real quick, summarize. Just summarize this email. Maybe I didn't want to go through and read all of that and try to figure it out. Now, here are the key points that the AI tried to figure out, right? So you go through the email, and it's like, okay, unhappy email. And it really just cuts to the chase of what it is. It's much shorter. And then it's talking about the very specific pieces and outcomes with that. So now if we jump back to this right here, where I ask it to basically turn this around because I want to sell it the book. I believe this is the email here. Okay, yep, that's what this is. All right, here's how you can help to resolve the issue. Let's just see what it suggests. Dear blah, 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 blah. Okay, thank you for your prompt response regarding the incorrect in my order. I'm a little confused. Either I'm in the wrong. Okay, so that is this one. It's just doesn't read right.
Well, again, AI is not perfect. It's a really good example of that. This is why, people saying let's replace all the humans with AI are a little bit off base. But I really want to make this call out. People can understand me better when they meet my parents, right? And this technology, its parent is autocomplete. Remember when you send a text and it says, piece of shut, right? It converts your words for you and it guesses. That's where this technology comes from. So want to make sure that everybody understands that this technology is about guessing what the answer should be. Just as like autocomplete and autocorrect guesses what it thinks you meant. This is in long form an autocomplete. So, it gives you a better understanding and context. This is not magic, it's mathematics.
Yep. No, I totally agree. So one of the things that when I'm rereading this while you were talking, it got the persona mixed up. It looks like it's coming from the customer's perspective. Although there is some good or decent information here, but I don't know about this last one. I don't know if it was like secretly listening to me or something, because we talked about the wife, but I don't think I put that in there. So that was weird. But in any event, by and large, I would go through and either create a new conversation to not pollute the conversation. And that's the important thing to understand with all of this. Maybe I just simply start up a new conversation with it so I don't get anything here. I need to respond Okay, and we'll do that here. And then again in the quotes. So in what I've done here is I've created a brand new session essentially with the AI. There's no context other than what I give it, and I'm hoping that I get a much better response. So if I just pause here, at least this is a response. Okay, this looks more like what I was expecting the first time. So this is where it got spun around and confused. So the desktop version is very finicky. I did notice this, and I'm glad this happened to call it out. Is that unlike what you get with ChatGPT, unlike what you get with other online systems, it's a little bit more forgiving online, but the offline or the desktop version using these private large language models that you can download from the library. There are so many to choose from. I mean, the sky's the limit here on what you can get download and play with. But the point here is that every time you have a conversation with the AI, if you're looking for it to do something very specific, don't cross threads, don't cross context of things. You may have to just do as I did several times, jump out and create a brand new conversation because the previous context may just be too much for it and it may hallucinate quite largely like it did in the last example. And then the other ones are just straight up. I asked it, hey, I want some tacos. What can I do about this? So I got this whole recipe. And to Sean's point earlier, he was talking about going online. It's getting to the point with these large language models because they have been essentially trained on the internet. You can be offline. I can use this. I can disconnect completely from the internet. And I can use this almost like the encyclopedia or all the books on my shelf and go here and get a good chunk of the answers, maybe not verbatim, but by and large, anything that you can think of, you can pretty much get a decent, maybe not a perfect answer. Some mileage will vary, obviously, but I think at the end of the day, you guys should have a lot of fun with this free app. Now, I do want to call out the folks at LM Studio gave me permission to, talk about it, make the screenshots. However, they do have if you're watching this from a commercial standpoint, I think most of you are, because those that watch the podcast typically are coming from enterprise, Fortune 100 or 500 clients. If you need to use LM Studio in a business environment, there's an email where you should ask for permission. It is open source for personal use. It's free. It's open source for educational use and free. But in the business environment, I haven't asked them if they charge any money at all for that scenario. I think they just want to monitor to possibly maybe sell this one day. And I think they're mainly at this point just interested in trying to figure out who, what, where, why, and when. But I reserve to be completely wrong on that. I've not spoken to anybody there about that at this time. So if you're interested in it, go ahead and download it. Again, it's free, but if you want to use it in a commercial environment, you do have to at least get permission from them to make sure that if you're in a business that it's okay to use in that use case. Anything else that I can demo or show you, Sean?
No, I mean, it comes down to, I think this book really provides that new primer. And I really want to make sure everybody understands walking into this, that you are trying to make this as simple as possible. If you know how to install something on your desktop, you can follow this and learn these skills. And it's not a question of should you must. We're walking into 2025 here, everyone. So having these skills is so important. But one thing I'm sure our audience is going to ask about is how much of this is going to be, let's just say, spoon-fed. Other people may be, poured on top of your head and you're drowned in, when things like Apple Intelligence and other things, it's being embedded in all the tools. Do you think that there is still a need for these skills as this is becoming more and more embedded into every application that we already use?
Yeah.
For example, email writing.
Yes. And the reason I say yes is because even if you took the first half of the book and trashed it and never installed anything, the prompt called prompt engineering. It's a very technical, scary term for those very new or don't want to have anything to do with AI. In layman's terms, it's how do I speak with and interact with AI, or speak its love language, for lack of a better term, to get the most mileage out of it. Just think back when you started using Google. You probably don't Google search the way that you used to Google when you first started. Like, you've learned a few tips and tricks along the way. And that's really what the second half of the book is about. And what Sean's talking about with it embedded in everything, you're going to have conversations with your computers. You're going to have conversations with your dishwasher, like everything, including possibly the kitchen sink, quite literally. And because it's there, it's so ubiquitous as to where this is going to show up and be, that it's just going to be second nature to learn how to speak to these robots. There's a little bit of finesse that's going to be needed or needing to be understood. And as this gets better over time, I think the need for prompt engineering will just kind of go shipped away to the wayside, because this is where we're going to get closer to AGI. And as we get closer to AGI, you're not going to be able to distinguish a conversation with a real human versus a robot. And when it gets to that point, well, I don't know. We'll have to have a different conversation.
Always positive ways to end a podcast. So really appreciate your time today, David, as we're going through this book. Really appreciate your proactiveness of going out and addressing this, because I know I've talked to people, I know you have talked to people asking the simple thing of like, can you help me get started? Yep. And I don't know how many links I've given to people, how many times I said, go to POE.com. Some of it, for some people, you need to have it all packaged up in a very simple, easy to follow instruction set. So good job on this, David. Please, everybody, help David recoup some of his time and effort on this, and put some money in the tip jar for him this Christmas. And maybe that'll help pay for some of the tokens he burnt in making this to begin with.
Yep, sounds great. All right, well, thanks, everybody. Don't forget to visit us on the web at transformationleaderspodcast.com. Be sure to scan this QR code that'll take you to our LinkedIn group page, so you can continue the conversations there. And wherever we post or announce these podcasts, you can make the comments in line to those posts and series, and one of us or both of us will respond to you as quickly as we can. But that's it for today's show. Thank you, Sean. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.